Hi, I'm Linda Stewart with the Division of Children and Youth Services at the Department of Mental Health. And today we're going to be talking about the initial assessment as it specifically relates to children and youth. The Mississippi Department of Mental Health provides hope by supporting a continuum of care for people with mental illness, intellectual or developmental disabilities, and alcohol and drug addiction. Services are provided through our state-operated programs and community services programs, regional community mental health centers, and other nonprofit service agencies and organizations. So today we're going to be talking about the initial assessment as it relates to children and youth. And unlike service provision to adults, providing services to children and youth includes a whole array of individuals and systems. And a few of those are listed here. So you will definitely see family members, biological and blended. You will also see foster parents or resource parents. You may see other family members like aunts, uncles, or grandmothers. So you're definitely going to see them if they're under 18. You will also be involved with the school system, the child's teachers, the school staff there, the principals, the school counselors, child protection services. If the child or youth is in CPS custody, you're definitely going to have a working relationship with that CPS worker and maybe the supervisor there at CPS in your county or catchment area. Also, if the child or youth has been involved in the juvenile justice system, if they've committed a crime or have charges, you're going to be involved with the people down at the juvenile detention center and the youth court counselors. So when you're dealing with children and youth, you have a wide array of individuals that you're going to be dealing with. The way that this is different from adults is typically with adults, either it's just the individual that is coming in for services that you're mostly focused on and working with. You may have a relative that comes in with that individual, but typically it's that individual and maybe one other family member or supporter that comes in with that individual. So that creates some different issues with children and youth when you're dealing with this with a multitude of systems and individuals in the child's life. Guardianship information. This is a section on our initial assessment that you want to make sure and complete. If the child or youth is in CPS custody, this information has to be indicated on the initial assessment. You want to include the name of that CPS caseworker so that that's documented in the case file so that if you need to, you can go back and reach out to that CPS worker. The description of need, this is a very, very important part of our initial assessment. This description of need, this is the golden thread training. So this part of the initial assessment, along with many others, you will see in the individual service plan as you complete that. You will also see in the recovery support plan as you complete that, and you will see the needs statement and some other areas of the initial assessment in your progress notes. So this is a very important part of the process and a part of the golden thread. Both the parent and guardian and the child, if they are able, should state the reason for seeking services, and this should be documented right there on the initial assessment. There's maybe some other individuals that come in. If the CPS worker, if the child is in CPS custody and they come in, you may want to get their feedback on what the child's needs are, youth's needs are. If another family member comes in, you may want to get their feedback as to what the child or youth needs are. But you definitely, if the child is able, want to get their take, their input, their feedback on what is going on in their lives. The child's ability to verbalize their needs and difficulties will vary with age and cognitive functioning. If the child is younger than age 6, age 5, they're going to have some difficulty and will need some guidance in stating what they feel like is going on or what the problems or issues are that they are having. The parent will probably be the major reporter there in that section if the child is very young. The information gathered in this section also determines the readiness of the child and family to engage in the treatment process, and it will assist with writing attainable and relevant goals and objectives on the individual service plan. So if you have a youth or a child that comes in and doesn't feel like they have any issues, anything to work on, any needs, then they more than likely aren't going to have a lot of action goals on their ISP. They're more likely going to have goals that relate to understanding and verbalizing the issues that they are having and more realization of the problems that they are having rather than stepping straight into action goals and objectives. On the initial assessment, you'll see the social, cultural, and living situation. Very important for children. We want to get their perspective on their life at home and what supports they have. The child support systems at home and school and in the community have to be explored in all three areas. You need to document the persons in that child's life on whom they rely. You can ask them when you're in trouble, when you have a problem, when you don't feel good, who do you go to? It's very important that's documented on this initial assessment, who they rely on and who their support system is. You also, if the parent, guardian, or another family is sitting there, helping the child, you want to make sure that you ask them, who do you rely on? Your child is relying on you. Who do you rely on in the community, in your church? Who do you rely on? Who is your support system? Who do you go to when you need help? The child should be able to identify meaningful activities in which he or she participates. You need to ask him or her what he or she enjoys doing. That can be something as simple as drawing, playing with certain toys at home, or it can be, as children get older, they get involved in different activities. It can be a sport or a dance or piano, or any of those activities need to be listed here. You can list their school activities. You may have a child or youth that's involved in student government. You may have a child or youth that is involved in different activities. They may be on the student council. They may be a class representative. They may play on the basketball team, or in elementary school, there are different activities clubs and things that children can get involved in. You want to add those to the initial assessment. Hobbies or talents, again, if they like to draw, like to play the piano, you want to list those here. Church activities, if they attend church. Children attend different activities and youth groups at church. You want to list those here as well. You also want to explore and ask if children feel safe in their home. Who lives with them? You want to know if there are any extended family members that might be living in the home, how they view their neighborhood, if there's anything they would like to change about their home or their neighborhood. Do they have friends that they like to play with in their neighborhood? And opportunities out in the neighborhood to get involved with different peer groups. You want to ask those questions if they feel safe. That's a very, very important question to ask, and get the answer to. You want to explore the needs or changes that may need to take place in home for the child to feel safe and supported. So you can ask that question. Is there anything that you would like to see different in your home or in your neighborhood? Is there something that you would like to see changed? Is there something you're not satisfied with or unhappy with? For education, because children spend so much time at school, we definitely want to get as much information here as we can. Many children don't have any problems at school, but most of the kids that you see that come in to the mental health center or your agency are going to have something at school that may just, they may need to want to see improved, or they may be having difficulty with. Kids spend so much time at school; they spend most of their day there. If they're not there, they're doing homework. So a lot of children's time and youth time is focused on school. So please list the name of the school the child attends and their current grade. If the child has an individualized education plan, we want to get a release sign and try to get that placed in their record, their case record, and be able to read and see what's going on there and what the school is doing there to help that child succeed. Problematic behaviors at school, academic difficulties or learning disabilities the child may have in reading, math, or other subjects need to be listed here in the education section. Any suspensions or expulsions also need to be listed here, and not just that they have had them or are in danger of being expelled, but what are the reasons for that? What's going on there? Because you will see this again in the area of need. All these issues here at school will probably be focused on the area and put into the area of need on the individual service plans. So you want to make sure and document very thoroughly here what goes on at school, what needs to be improved, what the child's perspective on how they are doing in school and the relationships they have at school. You want to describe the behaviors, the academic difficulties, and the reasons for suspension or expulsion, just like I just said. Make sure you list those reasons. Again, and then here, if the youth is employed or would like to be employed, you want to put that down on the initial assessment. Make sure you document that in the employment section. We don't have a lot of children and youth that are employed, but we do have some 16-year-olds that want to be employed. And if this is one of their goals, we want to make sure and put that down and make sure that we list that as something they want to do. And any barriers that they have to achieving this goal, whether it be transportation or maybe lack of support from their family or a time constraint, any of those barriers, we want to make sure and list those there as well. Current legal status. If the child has been involved in the juvenile justice system, we want to make sure and list that here in the past year. You need to make sure and document these things on the initial assessment, among others. These are just some ideas of things you want to include. What the charges are if they're involved, when that occurred, was the youth actually placed in the juvenile detention center, and what happened upon release from the juvenile detention center, what were the recommendations, does the youth have substance issues, and make sure and list those. And don't just put that they do, make sure you're listing, what substances they are currently using, how long they've been using them, how often they're doing that. We want to make sure and get that information. That's very important in treatment. Those are the sections that are related to youth that you need to pay really close attention to. If you have questions or need more information about the initial assessment or what needs to be included, you can contact Carmen Weaver at 601-359-1288. You can also email her at carmen.weaver@dmh.ms.gov. Thank you.